All right, guys, here's story number two. Now, I know we did not get to read this in class together, but we did talk about it. For your help, I also posted two videos on Google Classroom for you. The cartoon is like an overall what the story is about. It's not completely accurate. There's another one from shmoop.com. That one's kind of funny. Um, that one is more accurate to the story. It moves a little fast and is a little harder to understand. But that one gives you a better idea of what the story is about. So I recommend watching both. Both are helpful. But this story is a little more complicated than the first one because it deals with Greek mythology. So there's some background information I want to give you guys. Again, we're going to start at the very beginning. Don't skip this first part, it often gives really important information. So let's read that together. The concept of excessive selfishness has been recognized throughout history. The term narcissism comes from the Greek myth of Narcissus and Echo. That's the story that you're reading right now. Since then, narcissism has become a household word meaning excessive interest in oneself and one's physical appearance. So let's go through that line by line. Excessive selfishness. Now, this actually sounds kind of familiar. Could this be a theme to both stories? Did I find this idea in the other story? I'm pretty sure we used the word selfish in the other story. So, this is possibly the theme of both of my stories. And remember, that's what I'm trying to prove, that these stories share the same lesson, that both of these authors are trying to teach the same thing. So, I may have a possible theme. It tells us what this word narcissism means, and that means this story is probably focusing on that idea. So it says, when you're a narcissist, it says excessive interest in oneself and one's physical appearance. So a narcissism is extreme selfishness or pride in yourself. It means you're all about you, your physical appearance, especially. You're like, I am totally amazing. So I want to take you guys through some of the background information on this story. We know it's a Greek myth, and I don't know how many of you read Greek myths on your spare time. I recommend it because I love Greek myths. I also have a great web comic if you do really get into it. But I want to break down who these people are. So if you ever, it won't let me switch tabs. Excellent. So hold on one second, guys. All right, there we go. Had to solve some technical difficulties. So you'll see that a picture magically appeared on this screen, right? This is Narcissus from Disney. You guys may have seen the movie Hercules and not realize that you met this cartoon character. One of the Greek gods make a comment and it says, I haven't seen this much love in a room since Narcissus discovered himself. So this is the Greek god Narcissus, and you'll notice that he's totally in love with his own reflection right here. He's making kissing faces at it. He loves his appearance. That's why they joke and say he fell in love with himself with his reflection, which we're going to talk about more when we read this story. If you look at his necklace over here, can you read what that says? If you can't, it says me. So this dude is like really full of himself. Over here, this is Zeus. He's like the father of all the gods. He's also the god of thunder and lightning. He is the head honcho. He's in charge. We're going to learn more about him as we read the myth, but just kind of put a picture to the face, to the name. It was believed that all the Greek gods lived on Mount Olympus up here. It was like a palace in the sky. The Greeks believed in multiple gods, and each god had a purpose. There was god of wine, god of music, god of night, god of day, god of thunder. When they couldn't explain something, they usually used the gods to help them understand. Now, that in mind, we're going to break down this story. There's a lot of background information. So, this first chunk is actually background information to help you understand what happens between Narcissus and Echo. If you are confused about what the name of the story is, it's Narcissus and Echo. This is your title. You can kind of ignore this part. It's the name of the book that the story came from, but for your benchmark, I want the name of the actual story in the book. What you do need to know is that this is your author, and the whole name is your author. Later, when you go to cite the quotes that you took, you're going to go ahead and just use his last name, Green. Okay. So let's try to break this down together. Now remember, there's a lot of information you have to keep track of here, so I highly recommend that you guys are taking notes. Up on the wild, lonely mountains of Greece lived the Oreads, the nymphs or fairies of the hills, and among them one was the most beautiful, called Echo. She was one of the most talkative, too, and once she talked too much and angered Hera, the wife of Zeus, king of the gods. When Zeus grew tired of the golden hills at Mount Olympus, the home of the immortal gods, he would come down to earth and wander with the nymphs on the mountains. Hera, however, was jealous and often came to see what he was doing. It seemed strange at first that she always met Echo, and that Echo kept her listening for hours on end to her stories and her gossip. But at last, Hera realized that Echo was doing this on purpose to detain her, while Zeus went quickly back to Olympus as if he had never really been away. So nothing can stop you talking? Exclaimed Hera. Well, Echo, I do not intend to spoil your pleasure, but from this day on you shall be able to only repeat what other people say, and never speak unless someone else speaks first. Hera returned to Olympus, well pleased with the punishment she had made for Echo, leaving the poor nymph to weep sadly among the rocks and the mountainside and speak only the words which her sisters and their friends shouted happily to one another. She grew used to her strange fate after a while, but then a new misfortune befell her. So, that was a lot at one time. Let's go back. If you didn't know what nymphs are, they're little fairies. They're fairy creatures. Nymphs, I believe, have the power to take human shape, if that helps. And we know that we've got this girl, Echo. She was one of the most talkative, and she angered Hera. Now, I don't know if you think it's a great idea to anger the wife of the king of gods, but it's not. But let's see why she gets mad. That's the bigger question. Why is she angry? It says when Zeus grew tired of the golden halls, he would come down to earth and wander with the nymphs on the mountains. So when Zeus got bored on Mount Olympus, he came down and hung out with these girls. Now, if you're his wife, you're not going to be thrilled about this. He's hanging out with other women. He's being a little bit of a player here. So Zeus would come down to earth and flirt with the nymphs. Hera was jealous. She's not into this and tried to catch him in the act. It seemed strange that she always met Echo, and Echo kept her listening for hours. But at last, she realized that Echo was doing this on purpose to detain her. Now, if I didn't know what detain means, it had a little one down here. That means I should go look. And if I look down here, it means to hold back or delay. So what do I discover here? Echo talks to Hera on purpose to distract her, so that she can't catch Zeus. So, to give you guys an idea of what's happening here, I know you guys might know the idea of like side chick, right? Zeus has a lot of side chicks. He is a little bit of a player, so he's often cheating on Hera. He loves to come down to the mortal world and um, be really sneaky about his affairs. And Hera is not about this. She's a very jealous woman. She's also a very powerful woman. So when she finds out that she's being lied to and she's being cheated, she doesn't take it well. So what's her punishment to Echo? Only repeat what other people say unless spoken to first. So Echo's punishment for lying to the gods was she has to repeat, or she can only repeat, what other people say. And to top it all off, they have to speak first. So all of this here, it's actually just background information to understand what happened to Echo. Now remember, have you guys ever heard of an echo before? What does an echo do? That's right. When you go into like a hallway or to like a cave or a really big hill and you yell, hello, it usually yells back, hello, hello, hello. So it makes sense that her punishment is that she can only repeat words. And again, Greek myths often used gods to help them understand the things around them in the world. So I'm already noticing that Echo's name makes sense. It's because of how she was punished. Now, this story is not just called Echo, it's called Narcissus and Echo. So I know that my main problem is going to be with those two. This is kind of just a background problem to understand why Echo can't talk. We're going to find out more about her situation down here at the bottom. All right, let's keep going. So let's find out what the real thing is. There was a beautiful youth, that means somebody who's young, called Narcissus, who was the son of a nymph and the god of a nearby river. He grew up in the plain of Thebes until he was 16 years old and began to hunt on the mountains toward the north where Echo and her sister Oreads lived. As he wandered through the woods and valleys, many a nymph looked upon him and loved him, but Narcissus laughed at them scornfully, for he only loved himself. So I want you guys to take notice of something real quick. He has women falling over him, like they are all about him, but he only loves himself. To give you an idea, that kind of just means that like nobody's good enough for him is a good way to put it. Farther up the mountains, Echo saw him, and at once her lonely heart was filled with love for the beautiful youth, so that nothing else in the world mattered but to win him. So, right off the bat, I already find out one thing. Like every Disney story you've ever heard, love at first sight. Echo falls for Narcissus right away. Now she wished indeed that she could speak to him words of love, but the curse which Hera had placed upon her tied her tongue, and she could only follow wherever he went, hiding behind trees and rocks and feasting her eyes vainly upon him. So she's got a problem. She can't talk to him. because of the curse. One day, Narcissus wandered farther up the mountain than usual, and all of his friends, the other Theban youths, were left far behind. Only Echo followed him, still hiding among the rocks, her heart heavy with unspoken love. Presently, Narcissus realized that he was lost, and hoping to be heard by his companions, or perhaps by some mountain shepherd, he called out loudly, "Is anybody there?" "Here!" cried Echo. Narcissus stood in amazement, looking around in vain. Then he shouted, even more loudly, "Whoever you are, come to me!" "Come to me!" cried Echo so eagerly. Still, no one was visible, so Narcissus called again. "Why are you avoiding me?" So let's break that down real quick. Let's pause. Narcissus wandered further than usual, right? And his friends were left far behind. So he's by himself and he realizes that he's lost. That's really what we need to take away here. So naturally, because he's lost, calls for help. Now that he's spoken, Echo can talk to him now, but she's only allowed to say words that he uses. But she never comes out from behind the rock. So Narcissus has no idea who he's yelling to. So just to recap that moment, Narcissus gets lost, he starts yelling for help, and Echo answers, but she doesn't come out and show her face yet. He even asks, "Why are you avoiding me?" He's lost. He wants to get out of there, and nobody's coming out, so he's annoyed. Now remember, again, if I'm going too fast over here and you're not done taking notes, you can go ahead and pause this video and rewind it as many times as you need. So don't feel like I'm rushing it. You can always pause. Echo repeated his words, but with a sob in her breath, and Narcissus called once more. "Come here, I say, and let us meet." "Let us meet!" cried Echo, her heart leaping with joy as she spoke the happiest words that had left her lips since the curse had fallen on her. And to make good her words, she came running out from behind the rocks and tried to clasp her arms about him. So Narcissus calls them out, says, "Comes out," right? He's yelling, "Come out, show your face." Ooh, highlighted way too much. "Come out, show your face." And she does. She thinks that he's talking to her, right? She's super excited because he's like, "Come here, I want to meet you." So she comes running out and flings her arms around him. As she goes for this running embrace, Narcissus flung the beautiful nymph away from him in scorn. "Away with these embraces," he cried angrily, and his voice full of cruel contempt. "I would die before I would have you touch me." "I would have you touch me," repeated poor Echo. "Never will I let you kiss me." Kiss me," murmured Echo, sinking down among the rocks, as Narcissus cast her violently away from him and sped down the hillside. "One touch of those lips would kill me," he called back furiously over his shoulder. We're going to pause there and go back a little bit. So does Narcissus like that Echo came out and hugged him? Yeah, not so much, right? "Away with these embraces. I would die before I have you touch me." That's a pretty strong statement of hate, right? He pretty much says, I'd rather die than have you hug me. Now, that's pretty harsh, and that leaves Echo pretty heartbroken. Away with these embraces, stop hugging me. I'd rather die, and I'm never ever going to let you kiss me. And then it says it casted her violently from him, right? He pretty much threw her aside. So here's where this story gets tricky. Remember, Echo can only repeat what Narcissus said. So the last thing he says is, one touch of those lips would kill me. And then she yells, kill me, beg Echo. She was trying to kind of get his attention back, but here's what happens. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, heard her and was kind to her, for she had been a true lover. Quietly and painlessly, Echo pined away and died. But her voice lived on, lingering among the rocks and answering faintly whenever Narcissus or another called. This part gets a little confusing for people, so I just want you to kind of listen. Aphrodite is the goddess of love, and she knows that Echo is heartbroken. So she saves her by letting her die, essentially. So Echo yells, kill me. She's in so much emotional pain that she can't bear it anymore. And Aphrodite, being the goddess of love, says, your wish is granted. So Echo pines away, but they say that her voice lived on. Whenever somebody called, she would call back, right? So this is how an echo was made. Her voice stayed behind and still answers. So that's how Greek mythology explained what an echo was. When you yell real loud and the voice comes back to you, they say that it's Echo's voice still yelling back, waiting for Narcissus to call her. So we've learned about Echo's problem, right? Echo's problem is she's in love with Narcissus and he doesn't handle it well. Now Narcissus is going to have a problem. He ticked off the goddess of love, and that's not going to end well for her. He shall not go unpunished for his cruelty, said Aphrodite. By scorning poor Echo like this, he scorns love itself. And scorning love, he insults me. He is altogether eaten up with self love. Well, he shall love himself and no one else, and yet shall die of unrequited love. So again, see how this is highlighted with the number 3 on it? Let's scroll down and see what it means. Unrequited means not returned. So Aphrodite kind of gives us a hint here. Narcissus' punishment is unrequited love. This means a love that's not returned. So Aphrodite is going to do some kind of goddess magic to make sure that Narcissus falls in love with someone that can't return his love as a punishment for how he treated Echo. It was not long before Aphrodite made good her threat, and in a very strange way. So right here it says a strange way. That is already telling you that what's going to happen is not necessarily normal. And people get a little weirded out by the next part. Remember, they're already telling you that it's not something that you see every day. One day, tired of hunting, Narcissus came to a still, clear pool of water away up on the mountainside, not far from where he had scorned Echo and left her to die of a broken heart. with a cry of satisfaction, for the day was hot and cloudless, and he was parched with thirst. So he was thirsty. Narcissus flung himself down beside the pool and leaned forward to dip his face in the cool water. What was his surprise to see a beautiful face looking up at him through the still waters of the pool. The moment he saw, he loved, and love was a madness upon him so that he could think of nothing else. Now, we know this, but he does not. What it says here, he was surprised to see a beautiful face looking up at him through the still waters of the pool. We know that he's looking at his reflection. The moment he saw, he loved. Beautiful water nymph, he cried, I love you, be mine. Desperately, he plunged his arms into the water, but the face vanished as he touched only the pebbles at the bottom of the pool. Drawing out his arms, he gazed intently down, and as the water grew still again, saw once more that the face of his beloved. Poor Narcissus did not know that he was seeing his own reflection, for Aphrodite hid this knowledge from him. And this was perhaps the first time that a pool of water had reflected the face of anyone gazing into it. So let's look at that. This part's a little weird. Narcissus falls in love with his own reflection, but does not know it's his reflection. Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, punishes Narcissus by saying, you're going to fall in love with somebody that can't return your love. So, in a very funny and sad way, Aphrodite decides you're going to fall in love with your reflection because your reflection can't return your love. It's a cruel punishment, but Aphrodite was known to be a very cruel goddess. Over here, it says that maybe this was the first time that water had a reflection. They could use this to kind of explain why you see a reflection in water. But the idea is that Aphrodite punishes him, and he doesn't know that it's his reflection. Narcissus seemed enchanted by what he saw. He could not leave the pool, but lay by its side day after day, looking at the only face in the world which he loved and could not win, and pining just as Echo had pined. Slowly, Narcissus faded away, and at last his heart broke. Woe is me, for I loved in vain, he cried. I loved in vain, sobbed the voice of Echo among the rocks. Farewell, my love, farewell, were his last words, and Echo's voice broke, and its whisper shivered into silence. My love, farewell. So Narcissus died, and the earth covered his bones. But with the spring, a plant pushed its green leaves through the earth where he lay. As the sun shone on it, a bud opened, and a new flower blossomed for the first time, a white circle of petals around a yellow center. The flower grew and spread, waving the gentle breeze, which whispered among them like Echo herself come to kiss the blossoms of the first Narcissus flower. So let's recap what happens to Narcissus. Narcissus fades away, right? He spends his entire rest of his lifetime staring at his reflection. He can't have his reflection, so he dies, not knowing love. And we find out something kind of interesting. It says that when he died, his body turns into a flower. As the sun shone on it, a bud and a new flower blossomed for the first time. So his body turns into a flower. Now, this is an actual flower that you can look up. I wonder if I can do it from here. Image, web. Here we go. This is a narcissus flower over here. Let's see if I can zoom. Um, Insert. So this is a narcissus flower. We know them as daffodils, but it's a different coloring. It's the white with the yellow in the middle. Daffodils are usually yellow. They're my favorite flower. And what you'll notice about these is that they actually grow along the river and their heads face the reflection of the water. So that's how Greek myths explained the narcissus flower. So that was a lot of information at one time. So I want to kind of sum up the story for you. So let's start at the very beginning. Echo is punished for deceiving Hera. That means kind of lie to and tricking. And she does this by making her repeat what others say, and only that. Echo meets Narcissus and instantly falls in love. She eventually tries to, how do I say this? Show her feelings, and Narcissus pretty much throws her away, like literally throws her. So then she's absolutely heartbroken. So she's saved by Athena, by Aphrodite, goddess of love, who ends her life. She's in so much suffering that Aphrodite decides to spare her by ending her life. Aphrodite is angry. So she decides to punish Narcissus by making him fall in love with something that he can't fall in love with, right? Something he can't return his feelings for. So then Narcissus falls in love with his own reflection. He doesn't know that that's what he's doing. So eventually dies staring at his own reflection and turns into a flower. So, if you were unsure about that story, you may need to go back and read it one more time. So feel free to start this video over, but here's the overall idea of the story. Now remember, you're going to have to go back and find quotes that prove what you're trying to say. But let's recap real quick. To figure out the theme of the story, we have to look at three things. One, we have characters. We know we have Narcissus and Echo. Our title told us that. Two, we have to look at their problems, right? So Echo's problem is she falls in love, but he doesn't love her back. Narcissist's problem is that he's totally full of himself and he hurts Echo and angers Aphrodite. Solutions. For Echo, Aphrodite kills her, essentially. Narcissus. His problem isn't actually solved. He does fall in love with himself and withers away. So if you need to go back and watch that video again because it was a lot, go back, pause, rewind, do whatever you got to do. You can also meet with me on Google Hangouts from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We can chat, we can video chat, and we can make sure that you understand this story. For your assignment for today, you're going to be asked to go on Google Classroom and figure out what you think the theme of the story is. To do that, you have to go through the PowerPoint that I'm going to post on Classroom. I'm also going to post a video of me going through the notes so that you can understand it. If you think that you've got it, you can go ahead and just write it. And when you submit your theme, I'm going to comment back to make sure that you have a good theme statement. Because tomorrow we're going to start actually writing our benchmark, but we can't do that until you have a theme picked out. The great thing is you'll be able to see what your classmates are posting as well. So if you don't like your theme, but you like one that somebody else comes up with, you can use that too. I'm going to be posting one more video for you guys on Google Classroom, so make sure you go and you check that out. And if something isn't working for you, let me know and we'll find another way. All right, guys, you've been great. Good luck. And please, 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 if you have any questions, let me know. Have a good one. Bye, guys, and happy St. Patrick's Day.